Hi, my name is Corey Johnson, and welcome to my final presentation on Undead Living. So what is the idea of Undead Living? It is a gory and unique third-person survival horror that goes back to the roots of what made retro survival horror games special. It's set in a dystopian reality where both humans and the undead coexist, and it takes focus more on the characters and how their relationships are built, with a campy and absurd tone. Now that we know the idea of undead living, what is the premise? Regaining your humanity. Wrongly killed, you must regain your humanity or lose yourself in the undead world. Reclaiming your peaceful life. With life no longer being yours, you must defeat the evils of this world to claim your life back. Escape or perish. Trapped between both sides of this world, will you escape or perish? Meet the main character, Kazu. He is anxious, introverted, and cautious. Kazu is very unmotivated and enjoys his peaceful mundane life. Kazu is undead due to him being wrongly killed at the start of the game. His goal is to regain his humanity back and escape back to his peaceful life. Meet his partner, Kai. Kai is Kazu's partner who helps and supports him throughout missions. He is chaotic, extroverted, and playful. He is the exact opposite of Kazu. Kai has been isolated for most of his life due to him being undead. His goal is to make friends and explore the world he has missed out on. Mindless, the main enemy type of the game, and who were civilians who were affected by the virus. They have a damaged and wounded appearance, and they appear hostile, dangerous, starved, and brainless. They have razor-sharp claws and teeth, with mutated strength in arms and legs. The antagonist, Arania. She is 6'8" and 150 plus years old, undead, and is patient zero of the virus affecting everyone within the world. Based loosely on the Greek myth Arachne, she also has arachnid features. She has an elegant style and is a guilty scientist trying to right her wrongs. For this design, I went with spider-like features because that is a fear of mine. So I thought I would know best how to make a spider look scary. She has multiple eyes, which resemble a spider, with her hair kind of resembling the color of a black widow. And she also has the huge spider on her back. The reason I made her 6'8" was due to the fact of the success from Resident Evil Village and how well the antagonist did uh, on social media and in the game. I also felt that having a taller antagonist who would chase you around the map would be more scarier than, say, having them the height of the main character. Characters design and animation. Most character animations were made using Mixamo. Characters' animations are all purposefully picked in coherence to my character's personality. The animations are used to tell narrative on a deeper scale. What I mean by this is, back in Assignment 1 I did a specialist study on telling narrative through gameplay. And in my time I found that games like Last of Us 1 use gameplay to tell a narrative on a whole different level, which is something I wanted to replicate from my game. So, as you can see from the animations, in most of them he looks terrified or scared, which is his personality. So on the third animation is him opening a door, which is very slow and cautious and is how he would act in a game. So I wanted that to be replicated within the actual gameplay. Environments. The environments available in the demo is a theater level, which was inspired by Last of Us 2 and their theater. It's abandoned, so it would have a lot of dust and look empty and vast and like no one's been there. And I think I done well in that design. The second environment is Hallway of Arms, which was an idea I had long before the final major project started, and is something I've been most excited to do for this game project. Um, it's at the end of the level, and it's very cruel, and it just shows uh, what the player can expect if they were to make the full purchase of the game. Puzzles. Puzzle 1 is in the theater level and will require you to choose a correct path or fall to your death. Puzzle 2 focuses more on the player's movement skills and how they have adapted to the controls. You will need to dodge blades and fire to escape this puzzle. So in Puzzle 1, this is in the theater, and this is the last room to get the key to move on to the Hallway of Arms area. So for this puzzle, as you can see, the tiles represent checkboard, and using point lights and trigger areas, I would use this to tell if the player was on the correct path or not. If they were on X, they would end up through the floor and would die, but if they pick the lights and choose the correct path, they would move on to that room. For puzzle 2, this is in the lab. This is after the Hallway of Arms, and this one is based more around movement skills and how a player has adapted to the controls. Because due to a fixed camera perspective, the controls are very hard to get used to at first. So this would kind of almost be a skill check in a sense. For the actual puzzle itself, it would use modern futuristic blades and swords, which would rotate, and the player would have to maneuver around them to complete the puzzle. For these puzzles, they're not exactly puzzles, but that was due to research reasons. I found in research that a lot of people in forums and online discussions didn't really approve of puzzles having no coherence to the game, and I think mine does that well because the antagonist does not want you to go in these areas, so I don't think she would leave keys around, but set up traps, I do think she would do that. So, and for another reason is many people were on the forums and discussions were bored or irritated and frustrated about the retrieval puzzles, which are used in many survival horrors. So I wanted to do my best to avoid that. So I went with more death run puzzles, and these were heavily inspired by TV shows like Squid Game and Alice in the Borderland. And I think they're just entertaining ways of challenging the player and making them use their head. And I think it still fills in the spot of where puzzles naturally should be in a survival horror game. Absurdities. Absurdities are visual and interactive absurd set pieces that portrays the cruelty of the world the undead living is set in. It's also inspired by Japanese horror culture. These absurdities were very inspired by Japanese horror culture and movies like The Ring. I really liked how they took mundane objects and really added the element of horror. So I tried to replicate this myself in the game. And these were a couple of absurdities that I designed. The consumer is a vending machine which would act as a healing station for the undead. So you could get your healing items from here, and it was a absurd piece which is also interactive within the world, which really enforces the idea of how absurd uh, Undead Living is. Um, the eye on the right, that would be in the hallway of arms, and is a flesh dangling down with an eyeball in it, and I think that's also absurd. So I think these really would set my game up to be unique and really pay homage to how absurd I chose to make this game. Objective and mission for the demo. Tasked with the importance of ridding the mindless, Kazu is forced to enter a theater abandoned long before the outbreak. He needs to find his partner Kai, who is midway through his mission of finding a cure for the mindless. Informing Kazu on his position, it seems that the theater has a lot of secrets and one deadly and alarming threat. Find Kai, retrieve the cure, and escape death. Merchandise. So this is merchandise for the Undead Living game. On the left is the subtle range, and on the right is the full graphic range. So from feedback I had in a survey, I thought it was best from the results to do a subtle design and also a full graphic design. So then it caters towards two groups who want different things. Uh, in the feedback, it was clear to me as the t-shirt and hoodies were the most wanted merch, so I picked them too. For the designs itself, I used one of the absurdities for the subtle range. I think it works really well. Um, it's an eyeball, and in the game, it's watching people, so it's kind of representing that on the t-shirt. It's also good because it's one of the most smaller things I designed in the game, so it fits well with the subtle, and I think the design is okay for subtle as well. On the full graphic side, I went with my uh, protagonist and Kai, and they're partners throughout the game, so I thought the text was uh, perfect for that. They're both undead and they're partners, so uh, the text was suitable there. For the design, I had uh, Kazu as the top one with his blue eyes, and then for the bottom was Kai with the red eyes, and I think it worked really well. I took inspiration from anime merchandise and how they use eyes, and also with how important eyes was in my game. Through research, I wanted to apply through eyeballs their personality. So with Kazu, his eyes are blue, which represents anxiety, which he has, and for Kai, red is a dangerous color, it's a violent color, and I think that went well with his character as well. So I think the merchandise overall came out pretty nice. Website. So this is my website. It's very small and compact, but it's professional looking and it tells a viewer or anyone what the game is, what it's about, and how you can buy merch from it. There's also a concept art page where it shows off all the concepts I had for characters, which is something I know a lot of gaming fans in all genres like to see. I think the hoodie and t-shirts were price ranged correctly, and that the text within the website was informative and interesting. Products target range. So my priority target range are veteran horror fans who are familiar with older survival horror titles. The reason being for this is um, when I first done the fixed camera perspective and was trying out the controls with the fixed camera, I had people play the game and they also said the controls were very hard to get used to. So I think it's better to prioritize fans who are familiar with this controls, as it can be very frustrating towards the general target audience, though anyone can use the controls. It just takes time, which some people may be frustrated about if it was only in a demo. So I think it was better to focus on veteran fans because also when researching, I found that many of the veteran fans were missing the fixed camera perspective. So that was a whole reason why fixed camera perspective was inputted in this game. The general target range are survival horror fans of all familiarity with the genre. Um, with the fixed camera perspective and it catering more towards the veteran horror fans, this is still a survival horror, which anyone who is a fan of survival horror can play. There's no skill level which says you can't play it, and I think the story would cater towards survival horror fans of any familiarity with the product. The wide target range is 18 plus horror fans, as the horror will be unique and is inspired by many subgenres in horror. So I know most horror fans don't have a specific genre when it comes to horror, but some maybe not like survival horror for the elements it does. But I think with this and how unique some of the environments are and its tone, I think any horror fan could get behind it. So that was the wide target range. Selling points. The fixed camera perspective, bringing the retro perspective of survival horror back. So this was a huge selling point for this project. Fixed camera is wanted by veteran horror fans. It's also not as common within the survival horror market, so I think people who like playing a lot of survival horrors, this could appeal to them as well as the veteran fans. The second selling point is bite your enemies back. Give your enemies payback by biting them. So with this being a zombie-like game, and myself being a zombie fan, I thought it'd be a fun mechanic if the main character bit the zombies back. I've always thought about this while watching zombies or playing zombie media, so I thought it would be very fun to input this into the game, and it really goes with the absurd tone of this game and how it's campy, and seeing your character bite a zombie back for the first time, I think would be a memorable moment for the game. This was inspired by Resident Evil's defense knives, which when a zombie grabs you, you can use a knife to stab it back, and this would be the exact same. It would just be biting the enemies. And thirdly is unique visuals, experience environments unlike any survival horror. Yeah, the hallway of arms, I believe, is very unique and is something most survival horror fans hasn't seen. It's very cruel and it will set the tone for the game. And there's more to come with the full product if it was to go through. So I think that is a selling point to any horror fan. Developer overview, highlights, and gameplay. On the left is my gameplay. This was recorded on Unreal Engine and is the full gameplay. And on the right is the developer overview, which is just under 10 minutes of showing the project, its highlights, how things worked, the layout, and from a developer standpoint. And I think these are both very useful to watch. I won't play them now because it would come over 10 minutes and that would be too long. Thank you for listening. Please check out my website and developer overview.